but I think we would like to continue the discussion Paul and Nico were having earlier about the history of viruses from 1965 till today, before we move on to what's going to happen in the future with mobile malware and cloud computing. So Paul, would you like to start off with a historical overview of...
Since we practiced, you want us very quickly to go through the virus idea that we did.
Exactly.
Anytime you read about the history of malware, the one thing you'll notice, as with the history of most things in modern social history, 9/11 comes into it for some reason. And in fact, it does very interestingly in the history of malware, because that, for me, is the watershed between viruses, malware written by what you might call kids having fun. In other words, the crime of virus writing is the beginning and the end of the cyber criminal behavior. And that was about the middle of 2001 was when we saw the committed switch from that model to the model of actually using malware as a vehicle to make money with additional cyber crimes. And I say that because I remember it was after 9/11 that I saw, according to my memory, the first malware that popped up a little sort of phishing window that asked for donations to the Red Cross. Put in your credit card number, and off it went to, I nearly said Russia, but I really meant to say Ukraine instead, because that's where all this stuff goes. So I think the history of malware is dominated, according to some observers, by that switch from something which was problematic enough, code that runs out of control on your network, messes up the underlying security of your systems, to the use of that code not just to prove a point, but to actually make money. And it appears that astonishing amounts of money are being made. And as the keynote speakers yesterday pointed out, this is quite a difficult problem to solve, not least for jurisdictional reasons.
And the change has been actually fairly recent. For example, let's think about spam, and spam being sent or rerouted through infected home computers, which we all know that that's the way it's been happening forever. Actually, it's not that long ago. I believe the first organized malware campaigns to take over home computers to reroute spam emails through them started around 2003, which is only 7 years ago, which is not that long ago. So the changes are quite sudden when they start happening. And history of malware actually is timely and topical, because in 3 months from now, January 2011, it's going to be the 25th anniversary of the PC virus. Because Brain was found in January 1986, but that's the first PC virus, 25 years ago.
Of course, luckily we've got rid of floppy disks, which are a great way of...
Which got replaced by USB sticks.
Yeah, but those are perfectly secure, everyone knows that. And they don't have... The most of us don't carry quite so much data, right?
Okay, but what would the classification of mobile malware be? Do we include just viruses, trojans, the standard suspects, or are we going to include spam and stuff like that?
Paul and Nico were talking now about the evolution of the PC malware, but if we, for example, look at the mobile malware evolution, which started in 2004 and let's say to 2010 to the current moment. So the point is that the mobile malware evolution was absolutely the same as the, let's say, PC malware evolution, but it was really shorter. Only 6 years from 2004 when Kabir worm was appeared to 2010 when cyber criminals today they are earning money with the help of mobile malware. So the mobile malware evolution is almost the same, but it's really short, and it means that in very distant future we will see maybe mobile malware industry or something like this. And as for declassification, I think that everyone will agree that it's almost the same. So we saw different types of worms in 2004, 2005, 2006. We saw epidemics of Homar, for example, in Barcelona, as far as I remember. We saw different Trojan spies. We saw different applications which were trying to send, for example, short messages to premium rate numbers or to dial premium rate numbers. We saw backdoors. We saw networks. We saw all similar stuff as we saw on the PCs.
I think there was a very classic categories of malware, Trojan, and backdoor, etc. That Peter Sorge, for example, lays out very clearly in his book, The Art of Computer Virus Research. Highly recommended reading, by the way, if this is the kind of stuff that interests you. It's pretty good. Dennis brings up a very fantastic point. There's missing a key, a couple of, maybe one or two very, very key pieces there. And that is a piece of software that alters your system's behavior for financial gain for somebody else. And then I think that, to the points of the history that, Paul and Nico are sort of talking about quite a bit, this is something that they know that it appeared, but I don't think we ever really fully appreciate this. I think we don't quite know what its implications are. Think about, a mobile phone, and you can now introduce premium rate SMS messages, and by the time you get your bill, it's too late to come and complain about this. Think about how you can route those calls, and you can put them through various systems that, in fact, make lots of people a lot of money, and can be entirely transparent to you for the longest term. So there's all sorts of things that are happening that we have yet to truly understand and grasp.
The interesting thing about making money with mobile malware is that I actually believe that the most successful money-making mechanisms in the world of mobile malware actually are not the premium rate SMS or premium rate dialer Trojans we've seen, or the banking Trojans we've seen. We've actually seen one banking Trojan so far, which was from the second iPhone. I'm talking about DAH.
About the second iPhone.
Yeah. But those have made some money, but I do think that the most successful so far have been the commercial spying tool or spy software vendors, such as FlexiSpy and Mobile Spy and a couple of others. If you go and Google around for mobile spying tool, you'll find around 10 vendors in different parts of the world which seem to be making all of their revenues simply by selling spying tool software for iPhones, Androids, Windows Mobile, Symbian, Blackberries, and so on. And if there really is a market for at least 10 vendors which seem to be making all of their money from this, there has to be enough people buying these. The money going around in them has to be substantial.
Not necessarily, right? So these guys, if you look at it economically, from the standpoint of economic analysis, I think that they make a lot of assumptions about how big the market is and how big they can be. If you read Freakonomics, for example, you know that most drug dealers are sort of like mothers, but they're convinced that they're going to be that kingpin. So I think that this is sort of what a mother is. Microsoft Research is going to do some really cool analysis of the economic underground, the economy rather, of the underground, and sort of dispelling some of these myths. So I think that it appears there's a lot of money to be made. I don't know if they're necessarily making enough money to warrant 10 major groups sort of involved in this or even more. There's at least the assumption and the hope that there is.
The costs are pretty low, you must admit. Online selling being as cheap as it is. This begs another question. Mika, you and I have discussed it a couple of times recently, both here, casually during other presentations, and you brought it up in your presentation, Virus Bulletin, that there are a number of behaviors in, for example, yesterday there was a talk about USB keyloggers. I said to Mika, what legitimate, strong legitimate reason would you have for using such a thing? And we're able to come up with a few. But for many of the mobile stuff, like mobile spyware, and the unregulated premium rate numbers, which you discussed at the Virus Bulletin conference, that there are many sort of behaviors which are legal and are kind of accepted sort of grey area behavior by apparently legitimate companies, for which I can't really find any sort of justification, except perhaps for some sort of warranted lawful interception by law enforcement. So the idea that you can have an industry that's selling spyware and it's seen as really cool, the idea that you can have USB keyloggers in there, a great idea and a positive benefit to society. The idea that you can have premium rate numbers which charge $20 a minute, which pay immediately, which are unregulated, but yet can be operated in countries which themselves have strict regulation on their own mobile and fixed premium rate numbers, seems crazy. So we are in the same way that, and I think another aspect of mobile malware to me is not stuff that's on smartphones, mobile phones, but stuff that simply moves around in the web, like JavaScript exploits, stuff that flies around via HTTP. JavaScript obfuscation by legitimate websites because they think it protects their intellectual property. I think there's a whole load of behaviors where the legitimate part of the industry is kind of kidding itself that the stuff that it's doing is legitimate. And maybe if we just say, you know what, we're going to block all of that stuff as almost certainly unwanted, and kind of maybe go through the legal tussles and come out at the other end with a much clearer definition between good, bad, and indifferent online.
One of my favorite examples of this are all these mobile phone spying tool vendors who the typical way they explain themselves is that you buy our software and then you can monitor your small children. They just put on their phone and watch what they're doing.
Or the wife or girlfriend.
Well, yeah, it's illegal. But especially the small children, like this is the main explanation they come